First of all, we're gonna start this off by saying R.I.P. Fredo. R.I.P. Fredo. Stop drinking lean, guys. It is not good. Please stop it. Stop it. It's not good. Perks, not good. Weed, very good. With that being said, let's start the reaction.
Santana from Chicago, you feel me?
You know how we coming now, we rocking the Savage Squad shit, man.
Understand, man, I'm not a snitch, man. You know me. Hell no. You know, back then, everybody feel like Chicago. I ain't gonna be nothing but another game, man. They're going to the Fed joint, you know.
Especially Southside Chicago, where no hope, like no hope, ain't no hope. We give people hope. Like they look at us and see me every day, and they look like that's hope, you know. I'm like Barack Obama to these guys, man. I'm hope to them, like.
My dog X and put up on me, real.
I drop a 1 and 1 and 216 now. You have. You don't gotta do all that extra drop foes and 20 ounces, dropping 8 to 2 liters. You gonna f yourself like that? You trying to die.
Hey yo squad, what's the drill? Back with another video, man. Hip hop has seen the loss of some greats that would have taken over the game, but for some, even when they're gone, the impact is just too huge to die off. One of the most notorious out of Chicago was feared and respected by the homies and the ops, Fredo Santana. He wasn't just a scary sight in his music, but in his ops' dreams and in real life. You want to hear the real Freddy Kruger story? Then you gotta stick around to hear about Fredo Kruger. So without further ado, let's skip the play and get down to business. Team O Block is a home of a lot of savages. Derek Coleman, also known as Fredo Santana, is among many and one of the most gangsta out of all of them. He was just a little jit coming up when he was already surrounded by hood activities. His pops was known in the streets, and Fredo was brought up in the footsteps of his blueprint. Even as a baby, he was in his dad's arms while his father was holding the strap. Fredo Santana went from growing up among his aunties and brothers to growing up into hood savagery. He became a student of the game until he mastered the streets. He became BD, and his homies, all of them, was allegedly selling packs, stacking racks, and toting gats.
That's the shooter right there, man. Shooter, man. Popping in them, popping your dick. You already know, man.
Fredo Santana was of many talents and wasn't scared to let the ops know. On any given day, he could catch a body real quick. As young, he would roll like other savages like Lil Reese, King Von, and Chief Keef banging in the streets.
That's about it. Fredo was the only one. Fredo used to be in the building. Chief Keef used to be in the building.
Even at that young?
Yeah, even when we was that little, yeah, all of us used to be in the building.
Chief Keef was allegedly his blood cousin, and the two were tight like brothers.
Like, Chief Keef, like, his grandma and my grandma and sisters, and his grandma is my auntie, so that makes him my cousin, like, we was real cousins.
While Fredo was gang, Keef was beginning to focus more on music when they linked up with DJ Kid, moved from Japan to Chicago. He was behind them, helping to push their career in the studio. Fredo, on the other hand, was too caught up in the streets to follow in the same path, always making excuses to avoid hitting the booth.
Like, he was making beats, and we was hearing him, and you know, he told us he do music, and Keef was doing music with him first. First, I used to always make up excuses when we used to be like, Keef was like, man, we finna go to the studio. I no, man, I got some little females coming.
Instead, he chose to push Keef and even be his manager at one point.
You know, like before I was rapping, like I was like Chief Keef, like manager, you know, so like.
Fredo's hood shenanigans would eventually violate his parole, and he would find himself again behind bars. By now, he had dropped out of school and was fully in the streets. During that time, Keef linked up with Lil Reese to drop the classic banger Don't Like. In the song, Reese dropped the iconic line, Fredo in the cut, it's a scary sight. It introduced the world to the Chirac Savage, and soon anyone in the dark will soon be coming to the light. Fredo, incarcerated and watching Chief Keef and them blowing up, got serious about rapping when he got out and no longer made excuses. He slid through the booth, guns and all, everything on him, and recorded one of his earliest tracks, Hitter. Together with Chief Keef and their once close homie SD, they formed GBE, also known as Glory Boys Entertainment Collective, and set out to take over the industry.
So GBE, bro, how did that come about?
They came together on some, Fredo had got out, and like me and Keith was already hanging, you know what I'm saying? Day to day doing our thing, we was already doing our thing day to day. Then we had started like, you know, the music thing.
I did a video with the fallout of GBE with Keith and OG member SD, so you can check that out. Check out the full story. Fredo and Keith will begin collaborating on tracks like On That, and it was up from there. Fredo Santana dropped his debut mixtape off the Lil Reese line, That's a Scary Sight. He went from making excuses to having one of the craziest work ethics in the game. He not only launched his own label, Savage Squad Records.
You know, I'm just finna start another record label, so I just started Savage Squad Records, you know. Signed it myself, you feel me? Put out so many projects, and, you know, just grind, you know.
Stream live TV from 85 plus channels. Save up to $500 a year.
But under his imprint, he dropped the heat left and right with singles like My Lord Ninjas with Keith and Reese, Ring Bells, Jealous featuring Kendrick Lamar, and projects including his debut album Trappin' Ain't Dead, his collab project Street Shit with Gino Marley, Walking Legend, Scary Sight 2, and Fredo Kruger. Fredo Santana's music told the struggle of the streets and painted the dark lifestyle fans were drawn to, and his ops were afraid of. Yet and still, he was so humble and well respected by his peers and his ops.
I'm gonna say about Fredo. All people Fredo. Fredo was an op.
That goes to tell you the kind of person he was. No fake made up persona, just honestly who he was. By now, Fredo was mainstream in the trenches and in the industry. He was rapping and catching ops lacking allegedly, but he wasn't wasting the opportunity he had. He was branching off into other avenues of business, taking his status to a higher level. Bro was producing, designing clothes, designing shoes, modeling, executive producing movies, touring.
So you started off just like, you know, like rapping and shit, but you know, you got into other fields, you know, produced a little bit, and then obviously now you running your own independent label and shit.
Most definitely, you know, I be modeling and shit, you know.
You got to get into everything. The game is wide open.
Yeah, then I'll be
Fredo was about that bag. As his buzz reached worldwide, he caught the attention of OVO honcho Drake, who brought him in to star in his music video, Hold On, We're Going Home. Fredo was solidified all around, but no matter how he tried to stay away from beef and focus on building his brand and career, dudes just couldn't help but bring Fredo Kruger off the bench and back into the game. Before Migos reached the stardom that they have today, they were young, buzzing group coming up out of Georgia, and they got into it with Fredo's cousin, Chief Keef. Keef, who sends shots to the Migos on the song Trap, rapping the bars, "Bitch, I'm trapping out the mansion. I ain't trapping out no bando. This ain't no Versace." Referencing Migos' breakout tracks, Bando and Versace, Migos would hit back with some heat on Chief Keef with their diss, Jealousy. From there, the two kept throwing shots back and forth online. Keith got back in the booth to mock the Migos with a diss called Pull Up. Migos would then pull a slick move doing a show in Cali where Keith was living at. Knowing Keith was in rehab at the time, on judge's orders, Migos was out there talking reckless on interviews and getting into a shootout in Miami, and Chief Keef's name came up. Here's what they had to say.
You know, people are, you know, allegedly shooting at you guys on a Miami highway, and people are shooting back, and there's like real life situations happening here that most artists never have to deal with.
What we got going on, we trendsetter, we changed the game. We young, we ain't been in the game as long as the other folks ain't dead.
Things started getting out of hand when Migos caught GBE member Capo lacking in an alleged Chicago restaurant.
You ain't know none of that, boy. What? You ain't know none of that, boy. You know it, boy. All right, what? You ain't said this. You ain't said. You ain't said. You ain't said.
Capo and Migos now get into a back and forth online, with Migos claiming to swing on Capo and Capo saying all their swings missed and they were ducking, taking it outside. It was all cool when the Migos was doing their internet jabs, but the moment they messed with the GBE homie in person, Fredo had to step in and remind dudes it's a scary sight for real if he pop up. Fredo wasn't about to let the Migos be on no tomfoolery anymore on the game, and he would catch a body if he had to. What happened next was Fredo being a man of his word. Rumors would circulate that Fredo and them caught Migos lacking at a show, and an altercation popped off, and Quavo's chain got snatched off his neck. Keith would later confirm the rumor, posting a pic of the chain with the caption, "What's this? Once Fredo stepped in, that was that. Common sense prevailed and the Migos squashed things with Keith, putting an end to all of the beef. Fredo nearly threw away his hard work over the beef, but luckily, things de-escalated once he let the Migos know what was the real deal. Fredo was becoming larger than life. He was killing it in the independent game with his label, even turning down a deal that he considered with French Montana and Diddy's Bad Boy Records.
Where are you thinking of going? I'm hearing Diddy is recruiting you.
I'm out here messing with French, Coke boys, I mean, I actually had a little, talk with Bad Boy like months ago, like 3, 4 months ago.
Sadly, the high didn't last that long. Ironically, because Fredo was getting too high to cope with the trauma of the streets and the loss of his homies in his life. He was dependent on lean. Things got so bad that his grandmoms had to message him, urging him to slow down when she saw a pic of him with the lean belly. Grandmom's messaging was ignored, and Fredo would suffer the consequences of his addiction. He found himself on a hospital bed in March 2017 after suffering from a life-threatening seizure. Fredo would chuck it up to an exhaustion and being overworked. He would survive the scare and fans thought it was smooth sailing, but Fredo found himself again in the hospital in October 2017, and this time was diagnosed with liver and kidney failure. Rappers like the late XXXTentacion pulled up to the hospital to show love to the Chirac legend. Fredo recounted how his homie Gino Marley found him on the floor shaking and bleeding from his mouth. Finally, Fredo opened up about his lean dependency and was even ready to hit rehab and change his life around for himself and others that were dealing with addiction. Fredo showed how strong he was. He made it out and was back home, and you could see the change in time with his weight and attitude. He was trying and seemed to be doing better with the aid of the seizure prescription Keppra.
You better stand away from that lean. Ain't no drink, man. Weed, man.
Weed, man.
But the damage had unfortunately already been done. In the following months, Fredo would continuously experience seizures until he suffered the fatal one on January 19, 2018. His fiance found an unresponsive Fredo at his LA crib and he would never open his eyes again. Fredo Santana was gone. An autopsy would later rule cardiovascular disease as the main cause in addition to idiopathic epilepsy. The industry and the world was in shock, and an outpour of condolences, hurt, and love was posted online for the late rapper. Before he passed, him and Keith were actually working on a collab album called Blood Thicker Than Water.
Cause me and him finna drop a joint album together,
Right. When's that coming up?
Like we picking a date right now, man. And I'm thinking like the end of June,
Keith later did an interview open up about Fredo being the one looking out for him, making sure he wasn't popping pills to damage himself, and confirmed the project will be out in time.
He always used to, make sure we was doing something right.
Yeah.
Back when I was doing Zans, I used to try to do 5 of them.
Oh man.
He used to tell me like, no. He gave me 1. He gave me a half. I told him,
damn, he said just start with that. But he was right.
If only Fredo took his own advice.
I'm telling you, bro.
Fredo Santana came up with nothing, making it big to become the hood Barack Obama, inspiring youngins and showing them that they can make it too.
Especially Southside Chicago, where no hope, like no hope, ain't no hope. We give people hope. Like they look at us and see me every day, and they look like that's hope. I'm like Barack Obama to these guys, man. I'm hope to them. Like he doing that. Like maybe I can do something like they just giving people hope.
R.I.P. to the real Freddy, Fredo Kruger. So there you have it. Thanks for kicking it with your boy. Appreciate the love and support, man. I'll catch y'all when I...
R.I.P. Fredo, man. Stay away from the... Hey. Stay away from the drugs. I don't classify weed as a drug, it's a herb. Stay away from the drugs, man. Pills and lean is not the way to go. It only makes the pain temporary. Like and subscribe. Comment if you want to see something else, man. Let me know.